evening and welcome to tonight's show here on DJN TV. Tonight, we're going to be digging into your stories. We're going to dig into how you got started as a DJ. What was that one thing that opened the door, maybe opened your mind to the idea of becoming a DJ? Now, for a lot of us, you really can put this into a couple of different categories. Some of us loved music and it was just how can we enjoy music? Some of it was there was a girl or a guy and that got us into it. Some of us, it's like out there in left field, Scott. So we've got a crowd with us tonight. If you're out there watching on YouTube, you can go to djntv.com/chill and jump into the Zoom tonight and be with us tonight as we go through and kind of share some of the stories. I got to change our window. I didn't realize how it was going to get so. There we go. Now everyone's showing up. So let's go start here. Actually, I want to start. I've got John. You're going to be in the upper. I'm going to kind of go clockwise around the room. So, John, if you could turn your mic on here, and kind of give us, John, a little. What got you started in the DJ industry?
Well, I'm taking this back to probably 82, 83. I was an 8th grader, and I was working at a laundromat locally, and I'd like to bring my little radio along and play some music for the people that were there. And I made my own little mixtape songs off the radio. And eventually, after creating enough excitement with people wanting to come in and wanting to spend time in a laundromat, which is a dreadful task, people were enjoying listening to the music. And I actually got asked to perform at an outdoor backyard graduation, we'll say, with just being able, I had one turntable and one cassette player and a Radio Shack mixer. And I was actually asked to go and play. And this was probably the spring of 83. So starting from there, and a few of the kids that I went to school with were also into it. And we actually had a house party. We all set up in this 3rd floor attic and aimed the speakers out the window, and we had a kind of a side street and we were playing a little block party. So 82, 83, you think, Run DMC came out and Houdini's Escape came out. And, I had a lot of the records from the 79, 80. So Sugar Hill Gang and Lips Incorporated. So we were playing out the window through the course of the day to this little, what turned into a pretty good sized 100-person block party in Boston. So it was ethically mixed area. There were Spanish and Jamaican and Haitian and Dominican. Needless to say, when I came out at the end of the set that I had played, they were very surprised to see who I was and what I looked like. But it was a great time, and that's when I kind of put it together that yes, I can do this in front of people, and it'll be a great event.
Well, you covered some of my questions because I wanted to find out where it was when you started and you were in Boston and some of the early music that you were playing. You did well.
Thank you, sir.
You did very, very well. So the last, when you were playing at the laundromat and doing your thing there, did you really were you thinking at that time that hey, I could become a DJ and do what this guy on the radio is doing or doing something to that effect? Or was it just like, hey, I really enjoy music and here it is?
I had songs that I liked, and I had a little $59 Radio Shack mixer. So I would run the cassette player into another cassette player and condense down the mixtape so I could just leave it run for 45 minutes aside. And everyone would compliment, oh, the music is so great. Oh, we love coming here. What an experience. Thank you. And all I was there was to make singles and quarters for people that are trying to wash their clothes. So
sure.
It turned into something 37 years and I'm still here.
Nice. Something that just kind of kept you from being too bored there, making your own mixtape. Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Scott, you are up next. You are right below John there as I'm working my way around the room. What's your story, Scott?
40 years ago, I don't know what the hell happened, but
I love a story that starts like that.
Basically, I was at a teen disco. We were looking to come in to do lighting. I started out with lighting. Now, I enjoyed music, and we were putting together cosmic concerts in a planetarium at the time. So we were doing lighting. Howie would really enjoy what I had to do with the lighting part of it. Well, we were there to do lighting, and the DJ had a fit with management. They were bickering back and forth. we're just there just to see what they need for lighting. Well, he walks out and quits. So we're like, what the heck is going on? So I had somebody come up there and they said, that record's about to run out. So I run up to the booth, grabbed another record, threw it on the turntable, and I played around playing records before, and I held it in slip cue to start the next song. So I had to find something I knew was hot. So I hit it, man, the crowd went wild, and boom, the rest was history with me. But I really wasn't, I was wanting to go into radio because I have a tendency to run my mouth. And people have to tell me to shut up time and time again, but why not make money with it? So I went into the radio part of it, and then from radio came back, able to make money in clubs, able to come back and make money in mobiles because the older guys didn't want to do it. And they were paying $400 for 4 hours back in the 80s. I said, sure, I'll go do it. I went and bought turntables, and the rest was just history. And I was burning candles at both ends.
Sure.
With what I was doing. And so after I graduated high school, I was doing some stuff with Junior Achievement. And what we were doing with Junior Achievement was they were training guys how to be mobile DJs back then with Junior Achievement. Real simple thing. And they were doing this in high school. So I got involved in that too. But backtracking, I got started with just purely by accident. And that's how a lot of guys end up starting in this business is they just happen to be in the right place at the right time or the wrong time, however you want to put it. But I enjoyed music, and I just kept moving forward with it. I've had a few hiatuses through the years when I was raising my kids because I put my wife and children first over this business. And if you don't do that, you shouldn't even be in it, to be honest with you. You've got to have a balance. And that's what I did. I had a balance. I left it for a while, came back, was able to come right back into it because it was just a matter of going more CD than vinyl. So I went all through. I'm like John. I've been through all the formats, you might say, of being a DJ. And I have a great appreciation for that. I really do. And even the younger guys that want to learn about that old stuff and all. But that's how I kind of got myself started into it.
And it's interesting. You mentioned, of course, and I think a lot of us who've been doing this for 20 years or more, that love of music, we played music, and somebody then said, hey, like John, hey, can you come and do a party for us? I think that's kind of common. And I don't see that as much today because generally we couldn't afford to go out and put $1,000 into buying gear or something enough to be a DJ at that time. So we had to do things a little differently. And yet today, there's people who are coming and buying gear, used gear from a couple of my friends who sell it on a regular basis. And they're like, yeah, we're buying the gear and we're going to be a DJ next week. Well, why are you getting into that? Well, we think we can make some good money at it. Okay.
And I tell you what, I was scared spitless when I started. Man, I was shaking like a leaf. I mean, and if you don't think for a moment that you weren't the first time you got up there and started spinning, you're not doing it right. That means you're not caring.
And I think back then there weren't some opportunities. Now there's more things where people, kids can be in more activities where getting you up in front of a crowd if you so choose to be that child. We didn't have that. Basically, you were sports or that was it.
I had mentors, John. I did. I had people that I listened to. I didn't go to the fact that, I know how to do all this. No, I need help.
Yeah.
And I asked for it, and I still ask for help.
Yeah, that doesn't happen much anymore. With a lot of folks, unfortunately, with the internet, they don't need to ask her questions like they having a mentor.
But that's how I got started in a nutshell in it, and the rest I just keep going on, and I keep learning.
Yeah,
so
excellent.
Name of the game.
Yeah. Sounds great. Thank you, Scott. Bill, we're going to jump to you next as we're kind of working our way around here.
Okay. For me, it kind of started in phases. I grew up on a horse farm, and we had horse shows at our horse farm. And when I was 13,
where in the United States was your horse farm?
Oh, I'm sorry, in Maryland, between Baltimore and Washington D.C.
Yep. Okay.
And we had about 8 to 10 events there a year. When I was 13, the gentleman who was usually our PA announcer couldn't make it one day. I sat in the chair and got on the mic and started being the PA announcer. Did that for the rest of our shows off and on that year. And the next year, people started hiring me to announce at their shows.
Nice.
One of the things that caught on to me rather quickly is there's a lot of dead air when you're just sitting there with everything going on. You only need to talk on the mic when you need to be on the mic. So I started making mixtapes and figured out a way to hook the cassette player into the various amps that I was using or mixers, amps with built-in mixers, and basically hot-wired music throughout the PA systems on these showgrounds. And that kind of led from one thing to another to me building up my music collection even more than it ever was, making more mixtapes. And then at one point, post all that, the next phase was getting into putting on parties at the same horse farm. Because when you have a big farm and you're in high school, you realize you're a good zone for a party. So I started DJing my own parties as well, with other friends, jumping in and DJing sometimes. Rented sound systems from Chuck Levins and Wheaton. And, we were putting on parties 2 or 3 times a year. Might have made a little money off of those things. I'm not really sure. I can't confirm or deny any of that activity. And then got away from it entirely with the exception of still announcing the occasional horse show into the 90s on a much larger level, not at our farm. And then I'm a guest at a wedding. The DJ at the wedding was somebody I'd referred, a guy I knew. He had a multi-op company, never once ever considered doing that as a job. And he sales pitched me at the wedding. Hey, you should come by my office, check things out. We have a DJ, not a DJ meeting. We have a meeting every Tuesday night that turned out to be his DJ meeting. Mm-hmm. But the way he was pitching it, I felt like somebody was pitching me to go work for Primerica or Amway or one of those multi-op or multi-level companies, not a multi-op DJ company. So I waited like a month or so until I was just conveniently in the area, and I dropped by, and sure enough, Tuesday night, there's a meeting, and it's a DJ meeting. And next thing I know, at the end of the meeting, he said, there's a rule here. If you don't show up for the meeting, you don't get the jobs you weren't guaranteed on. And if you do show up for the meeting, you don't have jobs, you can take that person's jobs. Here's 3 nights at a hotel bar. It's a pretty easy job. It's where we break in a lot of early DJs who want to take it on. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't know any CDs, Ken. Oh, that's okay. We got a big library. Go down, pick out about 150. Make sure you get a lot of Bob Seger. Lonnie, the bartender, likes Bob Seger. I asked if you liked Huey Lewis and the News, and apparently, that was okay to play. And so was John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band. But I made sure I got all the important stuff. Grabbed a lot of soundtracks because I knew right away soundtracks are a good source for compilation music and things. And good thing I did, because the first night, the first customer in the bar was about an hour in, and it was an older gentleman. He came up to me, asked for some Louis Armstrong. And at this point, I'm like rotating between Bob Seger and something else every other song. And so I'm happy to figure out something else to play. I find Louis Armstrong on the Good Morning Vietnam soundtrack.
Yep.
Play the song. A couple songs later, the gentleman comes back over, drops $2 down on the table, says thank you, and walks away. I start digging through the other soundtracks because I knew there had to be something in there with another Louis Armstrong song. Sure enough, there was. I played it. Sure enough, gentleman comes back over with $2, drops it on the table. So on the way to that event, or to that bar the next night, I stopped at a Best Buy and bought a $5 Best of Louis Armstrong CD with 20 tracks on it. And managed to play all 20 tracks throughout the night. The gentleman comes up at the end of the night, didn't come up in between tracks, but at the end of the evening, he comes up, drops $40 down on the table and says, I see you went out and got you some new Louis Armstrong. I said, yes, sir. And I see you kept track.
I love that.
And I put that $40 into buying more CDs, and I've been hooked ever since.
Neat.
September 10th, 2001, I left that multi-op company. It was one of those moments of the 1,000 straws on the camel's back. Mm-hmm. Finally made me say, that's it, I'm done. And then the next morning, Carlisle Entertainment started as an official full-time DJ company.
Excellent.
And there we are.
Excellent. I don't know if I've ever heard someone whose story basically starts from the MC side like that, where you were on the microphone first and then brought the music to it. I mean, I've had probably the closest would be like someone like Bill Herman, who was in the acting world and then moved into that. But that's interesting. At 13 years old, here's a microphone. Go introduce at the show.
Long before the DJ thing, I had a lot of people compliment my voice, and some that definitely were in the the business, so to speak. And so I think that's kind of what led to it. As far as after the 13, throwing in the deep end of the pool thing, it just continued. And so I even went so far as to get better microphones and get a mixer to use in between my microphone and whatever amp was at the showgrounds I showed up at, just so it sounded better.
Yeah.
So you're right. There's not a lot of people that do the voice part first.
It's a great story. Great story. Thank you, Bill. Jimmy, we'll jump down to you and then we'll come up the other side here with Howie and Scrappa here. So Jimmy, unmute your microphone and tell us how you got started.
Technically, I started DJing by making pause button tapes. All right. It's where you just take little snippets of songs and good parts, and sometimes you did little effects where you sampled one thing, multiple times, create little clips here and there, and I started making copies of those. And
how long ago was that?
Of them. And then I went on, did a little turntable thingy at home. And first gig was a couple of birthday parties, a couple of little outdoor things, breakdancing was huge back then, so
Jimmy, tell us
I did a lot of that.
When is back then? Put us in a time frame.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see, 1982, around 82. I was big into roller skating back then, and then I got a roller skating gig, at the skating rink. I started DJing there. Then from that point, I just started doing like lots of parties and doing some school dances, and then moved into doing bars. Because at age 13, I had a full beard. I was 6'4". Nobody even questioned whether I was old enough. All right, so I just walked in and said, "Hey, you guys need a DJ?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're looking to try something new." So, bang, went in and word spread that was pretty good, and I got my mixing skills down, and it was this, that, and it just snowballed into bigger clubs, more clubs, bigger clubs. And then when I got married, I kind of slowed down. Only did like a couple of weddings here and there, and just kind of chilled out for a while. Then around 2000, that was in 2001. Around 2007, I got going again. All right. Took the plunge in and got rocking again, and really got up to speed around 2010. And then 2014 really pushed on. I think I did 30 weddings that year. And a lot of club work. There was like 3 different places I was DJing club work at. And I've been over the last few years, been slowing down a little bit. I'm not pursuing a lot of work. I'm just kind of chilling out.
In those early years, Jimmy, where were you? You were up in New York at that time, weren't you?
Yeah. I was in upstate New York. I DJ'd at some really, nothing big. It was a bar with a dance floor in it,
Mm-hmm.
as they like to call it. Anywhere from 250 to 400 people, but on Sunday nights and sometimes on Friday, I'd go DJ in Syracuse at a very large place called Club 37, and that was 1,700 people. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And that's where you cut your teeth on
Yeah.
the DJ room.
Oh yeah, that was good. There was a couple other places. There were like anywhere from 600 to 800 people. A place called Milo's, and we had a lot of track dates there where artists would come in, like the Cover Girls and Shannon, and a lot of freestyle dance artists of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the late '80s. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good
You're
stuff.
welcome.
Howie, Mr. Dapper this evening.
Hello, everyone. You were going to say something about my hat. Weren't
I
you?
was just the Dapper and the gentlemanly Howie Darkstar.
Yes. Well, I've always wanted a Stetson, and I treated myself to one. But my start, actually, I started in 7th grade. I was a comedian, and they would have the yearly talent show, and we would do comedy routines, and I love the crowd. I just love to make people laugh. And I loved the applause, and I was never afraid to speak in public. And I remember going to camp, and I heard some people playing guitar around the fireplace and singing, and I started singing with them. And the next thing you know, I'm in a band. And then this is in Edison, New Jersey. And this would be, I guess, the mid 70s. I became a big fish in a small pond. And I thought, this is it. I am going to be a rock star. So I hopped on the train. It's a half-hour ride to New York City. And I go into New York City, and I'm going to be a rock star. And then I heard musicians, from the capital of the world. And I realized, wow, I could practice the rest of my life and I'll never be that good. But I was always the guy in the band that set up the PA and the lighting and everything, because I was the one that knew how to do it. I had the technical background. So I said, I better switch dreams here. And that's when I went into doing the lights and sound for the bands. And I got a contract at Max's Kansas City in New York City, a 3-year contract to be the house light and sound man. I did bands such as the Ramones, Blondie, Talking Heads, the like. And I learned a lot there from just watching.
Sure.
And so when my contract was up, I came back to Edison, New Jersey, and I was doing the bar circuit. And at the time, I started buying up equipment, and I had a multi-op as far as lighting it and sound gear. So I had 8 complete light and sound rigs that I could rent out, which I did, and I was doing really well with that. Plus, I would do lights and sound for my own band at the time, and I got to be the house light and sound guy at a local really big bar that had 3 stages. They had music every night of the week, and on weekends they would one band would be done, another band would start in a different room, and then they raised the drinking age, and things started to wane a bit. And what happened was they cut back to the point where, okay, we're only going to have 2 bands. Then it was like, okay, only 1 band. And the manager or the owner actually said, Howie, can you play some music during the breaks? Well, I have some professional cassette decks, so I said, yeah, sure, I can bring them with me, and that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm playing between breaks, and I'm using an actual soundboard and just using the faders between, because I had 2 professional decks, and I could, just basic, no dead air,
Yeah.
not anything fancy mixing. So the owner decided, well, we're not going to have bands on Wednesday nights anymore. Okay. So at the time, $500 was good money for a band, but we had to split it 5 ways. Well, he said, we're not having a band on Wednesdays, but would you like to come in and just play music? I'll give you $300.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, $300. And I don't have to split it with anybody. I think I could do that.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. And I graduated from, cassettes to the CD era, and then into the MP3, and then controllers came along, and I was like, I just, I loved the technology so much, and I'm not shy in a crowd, and it just took off from there.
Yeah.
And I got much more proficient at production area and the production values. And a lot of times these days now, I get hired strictly to do lights.
Sure.
Although I still do, the weddings and corporate and so forth like that. But that's where I'm at now, and that's how I got there.
Yeah. Neat.
Yeah.
So when you were first starting out and you were doing, you had that contract. You said that was about what year was that? Excuse me.
In New York City, you mean?
Yep.
Okay, New York City. That would have been the late 70s, early 80s at Max's.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 80s, I had the contract for the huge club in, that basically cover bands is what we did.
It's interesting. I'd completely forgotten about it. There was a period of time when the Mall of America first opened up in Minneapolis, where they had a Gatlin's Club there, and they had multiple entertainment going on, where one would stop and it was like across the room. Then the band would start over there, and then that one would stop, and then across the room there was this constant going back and forth. And one was more of a dance band, country dance band, and one was more of a country line dance band. It was interesting, but yeah, you forgot all about those nights of multiple, because you don't see anything like that anymore.
It was an amazing place to work. The parking lot held 800 cars. So, and they were charging $2 at the door. So right off the bat, I mean, they were making thousands just at the door.
And then anything off drinks and such.
Yes. So it was a good time, and I don't know. I still love it. I just can't shake it.
Yeah, gets in your blood, in the blood. Thank you, Howie. Good story.
Thank you, John.
Scrappa, join us there. There you go. Tell us your story that brought you to the DJ industry.
I always liked music as a kid growing up, and bought plenty of it, and enjoyed it. When I was in first form, which I think would be approximately 7th grade over in America, secondary school, the school had a radio station there, and I saw that as a means of getting out of class, because you could go and sit in there and work out your playlist for the lunchtime break and recess and stuff like that. So I enjoyed doing that and mixing music there. I didn't really say that I was a DJ or anything like that, but I probably was. Then fast forward 30 odd years, to a couple of years ago. I toyed around with the idea of getting some gear, and then two Christmases ago, I went out and bought my stuff. And the reason why I bought it was between my wife and myself and our immediate family, our children, we had quite several meaningful birthdays. We had 2 18ths, a 16th, 4 21sts, a 40th, and a 50th in a 5-year period. And to hire a DJ, I was looking at $500 a night. To hire the gear was $300, $250 a night. And I thought, well, with that many major birthday parties, I'll go and buy the gear, and I've got it there, and do our own parties.
Sure.
And it would have paid for itself.
Sure.
At that time, I still do work in the waste industry. I was a garbo. And one of my fellow workers at the time was a DJ, and he started chatting and whatnot. And that's how I got my name, DJ Scrapper. He came up with that and started calling me that. And I said, well, it was just purely for our own birthday parties. I'm not interested in going out as a DJ or anything like that. And he just kept pushing. And so, yeah, I've done a few house parties last year. And this year I decided, what the heck, I'm going to go in all guns blazing and go out there and see if I can't do it as a job.
Sure.
So that's where I came around. So, yeah.
Nice.
So, and it's been very grateful, the chill room, because the guys in there each night, they're just full of advice and ideas. And thanks, Jimmy, because he came up with my great logo that gets lots of talk, So, yeah, it's been good.
Excellent. Wonderful. That's a neat thing that you had that gap in there, and yet once you came back to it, how it hooked you. It hooked you and won't let you go. That's fun. That it is. Chris, Gus, we've tonight we're actually live out on Facebook, or we're out broadcasting, and what we're talking about is what got us started. What was that moment of time, that thing that got us started in the DJ industry? So, if you guys want to share something, we would be up to Chris or Gus, either one of you, and then we're going to wrap things up here in about another 10 minutes. So, did you guys have a story you'd like to share with us?
Well, I actually got started across the street from me. A gentleman used to hold a crawfish boil, and if you're anywhere in the South, come around May, the crawfish are in season from Louisiana. And so he usually had a live band. And this particular year, he couldn't secure the live band. So he said, I don't know what I'm going to do for music. And I said, well, I've got a lot of music on my computer if you want me to play some music. So this was about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And so I played some music. Well, somebody that was at the crawfish boil said, hey, do you think you could do a wedding? And I said, yeah, sure. Just let me know what you want me to play.
Yep.
And so I did that wedding, and somebody that was at that wedding said, hey, we want you to do our wedding. And next thing you know, I'm a wedding DJ. So
right.
It just kind of took off from there. And that's the way. And I've always loved music from being a child. I've got a fairly musically inclined family on my mom's side. And so I've always enjoyed music, and they'd always get together. I had 4 uncles that were Southern gospel singers, and so they'd always get together and play the piano. And when we'd have family reunions, they'd always get together and play songs. And so anyway, I've always loved music. And matter of fact, that's the reason I'm late to the meeting, is because I got off the phone with the bride having a conference with them. So
nice. Excellent.
Anyway, yeah.
Excellent. That's so it's all the boil, the crawdad
boil. The boil. I owe it all to the boil.
The boil. The next door, the guy who had his spring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neat story. Thank you, Chris. Gus, you got to share with us?
Just a little quick one. Yeah. Actually, it started off when I used to be in a band. And for the longest time, actually, my wife was pregnant with my youngest son, my oldest son now, actually. And I decided to get out of the band. And during the time I was with the band, I did borrow the band PA to do some parties here and there. So of course that was overkill for a lot of it. But after that, we decided to go on our own, and it didn't take too long. We started Yellow Pages and so on, and our love of music was such that, like a lot of us, we just jumped into it, and word of mouth and Yellow Pages and everything else. We got into it in '92, so we've been going at it ever since. So enjoying every minute of it. Although beside the lull this year, it's been good.
Mm-hmm. Guess what? Where in the world were you? Did you start out with or start?
Where I was?
Yeah, location. Yep.
Yeah, I actually in Southwest Ontario, right across from the Michigan border.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I've been working mostly. Like, I've been working pretty much about an hour around here, is about as far as I'd go. But that covered a lot of terrain, a lot of people around here. So that was perfectly good for us.
Mm-hmm. Nice, excellent. Yeah. Thank you much for sharing. I think we've hit everybody. Thank you all for sharing your stories tonight. If you're watching this video and you've got a story you'd like to share, but you didn't want to be on video, hey, put that into the chat. One of the cool things about the chat on YouTube specifically is we do read those, and may not comment on them because I'm usually logged into the wrong account, but I do read the chat. So when you guys are putting messages up, I try to get them to the proper people and such, and I'd love to hear more of the stories of how you got started in this, because it's kind of like you get started in it, it hooks you. And as Scott talked about, he was there and he kind of drifted away, and it just keeps kind of bringing you back in. And that kind of ties into what I was talking about last week a little bit with getting back into that passion. And you heard the mixtape thing brought up a few times tonight. Some of that kind of stuff is just that energy recharger and refresh you to bring you back to that point of where you fell in love with being a DJ and playing the music for people. So thank you once again, everyone who is involved tonight. We had a good discussion. We'll be back in about 20 minutes. Dan and I are going to be talking about our inspirations. We're going to kind of build off our topic tonight and go into it a little bit more in depth about what inspires you. Where are you looking today for inspiration in the DJ industry and out of the DJ industry? And we'll be getting to that at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight. Thank you guys once again. We'll catch you then. Bye-bye.
Good night,